So we will move on with Mr. Manoj Menon now, who is the Senior Partner and Managing Director for Asia Pacific Frost & Sullivan. Manoj, who's right here with us right now, has been with Frost & Sullivan since December 1996 as one of the pioneers when the company had just begun its trajectory into Asia. He has since then, of course, successfully grown the company's presence and business in Asia Pacific. Manoj continues to drive Frost & Sullivan's expansion in the region, yielding the highest year-on-year growth to the group's global business. And throughout his tenure, he has been consulted on multiple strategic and syndicated projects for leading multinational companies, regulators, and government bodies, providing growth workshops and client councils, among others. And today, he's one of the region's most sought-after speakers, so just catch hold of him later, and thought leaders, where his expert opinion has been heard at seminars and industry conferences globally, and he's frequently featured in leading media, namely CNN, Bloomberg, Channel News Asia, CNBC, BBC. So you know just who to catch if his words don't come true. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mr. Manoj Menon.
Good morning, Her Excellency Ms. Vijay Thakur, High Commissioner of India in Singapore, Mr. Ravindra Nath, Chairman NSIC, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, very delighted to be here, part of this Make in India initiative, and have this opportunity to say a few words on opportunities for collaboration between Singapore and India, as well as other businesses. For this discussion, I thought let me use the context of one of my favorite subjects. My favorite subject is megatrends, and I've been trying to work on this subject for the last 8 years. We use that as a framework to help our clients understand about growth opportunities and how to drive growth for their businesses over the next decade or so. So, since time is limited, I will pick on 3 megatrends and try and see the context of those megatrends in light of the conversations that we're going to have for the rest of today. The first and the biggest megatrend that impacts all of us, and there is no bigger megatrend than this, is the megatrend of urbanization. In the year 1900, there were less than 300 million people around the world who lived in cities. By the year 2000, that number has grown to about 3.2 billion people. So we saw a tenfold growth, a massive migration of people from rural areas to urban areas. The trend is no different in India. In India as well, we are seeing India is the fastest growing urbanizing country in the world today. Roughly today, there are only 30% of people in India who live in urban centers. Relative to global standards, it is about 50%. So we see this continuing trend of urbanization likely to happen in India. As we see this trend of urbanization, it also poses tremendous challenges. Challenges associated with infrastructure, energy, power, crime, pollution, a range of different issues. So in light of this challenge, we have a huge opportunity to be able to contribute to making better livable cities. And in that context, you know that the Honorable Prime Minister of India launched a massive initiative talking about smart cities. There's an initiative to have 100 smart cities in India by the year 2022. The government is committing about $1 billion of investment every year in public-private partnership projects to create these smart cities. Such a fantastic avenue to participate and collaborate because we are in Singapore, which is recognized around the world as a great smart city, as a role model for many facets, be it traffic, environment, smart buildings, smart energy, a range of different areas. The second megatrend I want to talk about is that of in the area of business model innovation. There are several aspects within the area of business model innovation that are impacting companies as well as governments. One of the key changes we see in business model is this move from buying a product to consuming a service. So instead of buying a product, we rather pay for a service. Inherently, as human beings, we have acquired so many assets in our homes. We tend to use these assets for a very fractional amount of time of the value of that asset. The car is a perfect example. We paid a couple of $100,000 in Singapore to acquire a car, and we use it for less than 10% of the time. And therefore, we see companies like Uber and Share a Taxi and Grab a Taxi growing so rapidly. Let's have a better utilization of the asset because there is no need to create more assets, because there's a lot of assets lying out there which are not utilized efficiently. The second area within a business model innovation is the aspect of co-creation. There is no need to create all the innovation within the company or within the organization. You have to co-create innovation together with partners and your customers. The best examples of co-creation are companies like Apple and Facebook and Google. What they have done is they have given a framework, they have given a platform, and through that platform they encourage millions of entrepreneurs around the world to come and develop applications on that platform. So the innovation on a framework or a platform like Apple is not done only by Apple, but the millions of small and medium and micro enterprises around the world. They leverage the power of that innovation. So what does co-creation mean for India? We have seen India in the last 10 years exploit the opportunity associated with IT services. We have exploited the arbitrage opportunity of doing a service far more efficiently in a much more cost-effective way in India. And the internet enabled us to participate and create companies which are now 10, 15, $20 million of turnover in a very, very short period of time. How can we try and develop a co-creation ecosystem such that the small, medium, and micro enterprises, be it in manufacturing or services, can participate and be part of this global economy? So that is the second mega trend I briefly wanted to touch on. The third mega trend, we call it innovate to zero. And this is a very fascinating one. Bill Gates gave a very famous speech in the year 2010. He talked about innovating to zero carbon emission. He said there is a sense of urgency with which we all need to act so that we can make the planet a safer place, because otherwise environment hazards will continue to grow. We took it a step further. We said innovate to zero is not just about innovating to zero carbon emission. Innovate to zero is about using a framework to think about innovation in the marketplace. Because what Bill Gates showed is you can innovate to zero carbon emission. You can have that vision. And how you can deconstruct that by looking at smaller and finer aspects and work backwards to achieving that vision. I think innovate to zero means a lot for many reasons. As you look at Singapore, Singapore has great examples of innovate to zero. It's practically innovated to zero crime. We have such a big problem with crime in India. We have a big problem with issues such as rape in India. How can we leverage the power of technology to try and address and solve some of these challenges? Singapore has also innovated with zero tax filing. We all have a challenge with filing tax in India. You have to hire accountants and chartered accountants. And it used to be a problem in Singapore. You go to file your tax on 15th of April, invariably the servers are down. Right? So what did the Singapore government do? They came up with a fantastic policy. No matter what you tell the Singaporeans, they will only file tax at the last minute on the 15th of April. So all 3 million people go in and trying to log in to file tax on 15th of April, and the servers go down because you cannot build capacity just for that one instant. So they said, we got to innovate. We got to figure out a smarter way so that the servers don't go down. They came up with a system that you don't need to file tax. We will pre-fill it for you. You just need to come and say, yes, and your taxes are filed. So how can we use innovate to zero to solve some of the challenges that we face in India? Another great example of Singapore is affordable housing. The government of India wants to make affordable housing. How do you innovate to having lower cost housing? Is there examples that we can use from that context? I think we are in a very fascinating space. Singapore has a lot to offer, be it smart cities, be it business model innovation. Singapore is really known for process and business model innovation, both as a government as well as from an efficiency standpoint. How can we try and bring up some of those benefits? How can we look at some of those innovations here? So I see a huge opportunity for Singapore and India to partner and collaborate to drive this. Singapore is also a great gateway for ASEAN. ASEAN has about 600 million people. It will represent one of the fastest growth engines for the world economy. We have now very powerful mandates for governments in Indonesia, in the Philippines, in Vietnam, and Thailand is also stable now. So we should see a lot of growth in these markets. And there's a lot of similarity in the markets and customers between India and ASEAN. So can we use Singapore as a gateway for doing business?
Thank you.
I hope I have set the context for some interesting dialogue and discussions for the rest of the day. I wish you all a great event, and thank you very much for this opportunity.